What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, Big Dog Brother. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. Today, we're going to be talking about the University of Georgia versus our age-old rival, Auburn. We're also going to be talking about the other college football games throughout the weekend. The next biggest one, in my very humble opinion, has to be Alabama versus Texas A&M, especially with all the offseason talk. So we have a special guest tonight, person you guys all know and love well. We're going to bring Keith in right now. There he is. Okay. Welcome back, Keith. How's it going, man?
Hey, doing good, man. How's everybody doing?
Doing great, man. Been drinking coffee since 3 a.m. Not going to stop now.
I hear you, man.
So hope everybody – go ahead.
Anytime I go to make coffee after about 6 o'clock, my wife is like, "You don't need no coffee." I'm like,
Didn't need you either, but I'm married.
So sometimes it's just time for some coffee.
Right? My wife says stuff to me like that all the time. I'm like, "I didn't need you when I married you either, but here we are." I'm glad I make them kind of decisions sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. Well, let's go ahead and recognize all of the early attendees here. Michael Porter, how's it going, sir? One of our resident members. Thank you so much for being here supporting the channel, sir. Roll Tide CV Joint is here. How you doing, sir? Sarah Crane has an excellent suggestion. She says, hit the like and hit the thumbs up button. How you doing? Yep, appreciate that. Keith Carr, of course, you're here. We know you're here. Eric Wallace, how you doing, sir? We're going to talk about Alabama, don't you worry. Quite a few other people is going to be showing up here in just a little while. So in the meantime, no, I won't be up all night, and coffee does not affect me that way. I promise you, I will be super energetic. I will put the coffee down, and I will go to bed and go directly to sleep. I have no problem falling asleep. I could drink a Red Bull and go to sleep, which, by the way, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how about the running to the toilet part? That's the one that's going to get me with coffee.
Nah, I don't have that problem. my body looks at that like it's water at this point. It's like, nah, don't care. So, but for me, just so you guys know, I found out a little while back that a guy that I knew apparently was having some problems, had some health conditions, and they related it back to drinking too many energy drinks. I didn't think much of it. I was just like, whatever. And then I found out, I was watching a TikTok. Imagine that. I was watching a TikTok of a girl who was talking about her dad who had died from a heart condition that was caused directly by energy drinks. So I pretty much swore those off. The guy was 46. I'm not far away from that, and I used to drink like one, maybe two a day. So now I'm done with that. Don't do that anymore. Stick to my coffee. I don't think coffee is going to hurt me because our grandmother drank coffee pretty much until the day that they throw dirt on top of her. So I think coffee's not going to hurt me too much. Roll Tide CVC says you and Lou are the only UGA fans that are logical. No, we're not the only two that are logical. There's some other ones out there that are logical. You just haven't run into them yet. There's a lot of loud fans out there, and that's the ones that seem to get the most attention. And unfortunately, the loud fans often tend to be the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Emotionally energized. We'll say it that way. There's a spider, a little bitty spider that's right here. He's got to go. So long, sir. Okay. I don't want to beat around the bush too much because I don't want to do a 2-hour show. What do you say we just jump right into it, Keith?
Yeah,
We're going to go through Saturday's lineup. Hello, Miss Kylie. I love you. I love coffee so much. My daughter works at Starbucks.
Got to get that inside track.
She just found out today that she's going to be the next shift lead. She's worked there for about 2 weeks?
Nice.
How long has it been? 4 months. Yeah, 4 months she's going to be a shift lead. So I don't know where she gets that from. Certainly not me. Yeah, I don't drink espresso. That tastes like I don't drink espresso straight though. No, see.
Yeah, I got my wife an espresso machine, man, and I tried. No,
it didn't work.
It's not for me.
I'm not an espresso kind of guy.
No.
The stuff's like drinking jet fuel as far as I'm concerned. All right, so I want to jump into the college football schedule. I'm going to see if I can share my screen here so we can kind of stay on the same page. Present. They changed some stuff with with the content creator side of StreamYard, which is what I'm using for the show. And I had to go in and like reset up my microphone and all kind of other stuff. So see if we can get this up. Tell me if you can see that.
I can. Yep.
Okay, good deal. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. That might help our viewers. That might be a little better. Okay. So let's jump over here. Saturday. Let's be honest. Nobody really cares about Nebraska playing Rutgers, Houston, Memphis, Colorado State, Nevada, or UNLV versus San Jose State. But we do care about the stuff that happens on Saturday, right? So I'm going to let you take your pick of noon games on which one you want to start with.
I mean, well, let's see.
I'm going to turn this down.
I mean, Tennessee, LSU, I guess. I mean, it's the obvious one, the obvious pick because, well, other than TCU and Kansas, both of those you got ranked opponents going against each other. So,
right.
LSU's looking to turn a season around, and Tennessee's looking to, try to validate that they are who everybody thinks they are. So, I don't know. That should be an interesting. I mean, that's the game I'm going to have my eye on. I know TCU Kansas is, also a big game. Not my teams, but I'll keep an eye on that. But my TV will probably have Tennessee LSU on for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm interested in Arkansas and Mississippi State too. But
I think number one, I think Mississippi State you could probably make an argument they should be a little bit higher, but you could probably make the same argument about Arkansas. And so I'm going to watch this game because for some reason I'm just emotionally invested in Sam Pittman and Arkansas.
For sure. Yeah.
I just want to see that team do well, except for when they play us, and then I want to beat them 41-0. The TCU Kansas game, I think this is going to be another one of those interesting games. I think it's possible that both of these teams are overrated. You can jump up and down and shout SEC bias there, but let's be honest. This is Kansas State and TCU. Okay? Neither one of them have the greatest recruiting record nor the coaching staff, in my opinion. So we'll kind of see how that one goes. Tennessee LSU game, I am really going to be watching this game. The Michigan game will be a blowout by halftime. Michigan will be beating the fire out of Indiana. Indiana's not that good, so they are playing in Indiana, but I think you're going to see a lot of Michigan players there. Michigan's not that far from Indiana. And there's a lot of Michigan fans in Indiana, so you're going to get to see, that stadium will be at least 50-50, if not 60-40 Michigan, in my opinion. But the Tennessee LSU game, this is really going to tell us a lot about both of these teams. I think this is probably one of the better teams that Tennessee has played all year. We're going to get to see if Mr. Booker is as good as they make him out to be. I don't know if he is or not. We're going to find out. LSU has not had the greatest what's the word I'm looking for here? They haven't had the greatest luck since their national championship. I mean, it's kind of like they got a national championship and then just fell off a cliff. They fired Ed Ogeron, which they probably needed to do, but I don't know that they had a really good replacement lined up just yet. Brian Kelly coming over from Notre Dame has kind of had some faux pas where he's made some mistakes about, the way he's tried to interact with the fans, and which I can respect to a point what he's trying to do, but I think he's done a poor job of it. This team has done pretty well. We thought they were worse than they are whenever they lost to Florida State, just to come to find out Florida State's actually pretty decent this year. So this is going to be two good football teams going up against one another. I would not be surprised if either team won.
Yeah, same here. I think, I think this may be, I think this may be a test for Tennessee for sure. I think the obvious pick is to take Tennessee here. Everybody's really high on Tennessee, and then Hooker's having a good season. LSU, I mean, the Florida State game, I think, was an outlier. I think FSU benefited greatly from that being the first game of the season. I'm not 100% sure if these teams played again, if FSU would come back on top. And I'm high on FSU right now. I think Norvell's doing great down there. I think I think they're turning it around. However, I do think they're about to lose 3 in a row. I think they just lost Wake Forest. NC State, I think, is going to beat them. They got Clemson next week. So, but getting back to this game, I think LSU, I think LSU is, like you said, they're better than we thought they were in the beginning of the season. And I'm not quite sure Tennessee is as good as everybody thinks they are. So, yeah, if you're looking for an interesting pick, a hot take, LSU over Tennessee this weekend.
I'm going to take the hottest of the takes. I'm going to say LSU. They're playing at LSU. And I really, really think that LSU is better than what they're getting credit for. I want you to do this for 1 second. I want you to take into consideration what happens. Where do you put LSU if LSU had beat Florida State?
If LSU beat Florida State?
Yeah, because at this point they would be 5-0. If LSU beats Florida State, they're 5-0 going into this game, and they're not going to be ranked at 25. They would be ranked much higher.
Yeah, were they ranked when they played FSU? I can't remember.
I
think they were just outside. Yeah, I think they were outside. Yeah, I don't think they would have gotten any. If they would have beaten FSU, I'm not real sure they would have gotten any brownie points. I think they would just be a 5-0 LSU team that doesn't really have an impressive win. But that would definitely have them in the top 25 and probably close to the top 10.
I'd say it'd usually be like top 15.
Yeah, they would probably be top 15. I would say between 10 and 15.
Yeah. So if we look at Florida State, State,
this game would have a 5-0 LSU with a win over an 8th ranked Tennessee coming off of this game would definitely put them. It would vault them
to the 10 spot at least.
Yeah, at least. And if they beat them this weekend, it's going to vault them anyways. So
yeah, for sure. Well, and here's the thing: I'm a little bit curious as to how Tennessee is going to approach this game, because Tennessee, even though in the recent years it hasn't seemed like it, Tennessee has a rivalry with Alabama, and that's 1 week after this LSU game. So I'm wondering if Coach Heupel, doesn't have enough. What's the word I'm looking for? Coaching experience to have the mental fortitude to not let his team get caught looking forward to Alabama, because that's an easy thing to do. It's easy to look up and say 2 weeks from now we got to play Alabama. Yeah, we got to play LSU, but they're ranked number 25 and we're 8th. I think that's an easy trap to fall into, and I really think that LSU, if they don't come out there and take LSU seriously, LSU will hurt them. LSU is only allowed 17 points or more. More than 17 points once this season, and that was against Florida State, and they only got 23. So they held Southern to 17. Mississippi State, which beat Texas A&M, they held them to 16. They held New Mexico to 0, and they held Auburn to 17. Now, we can make some arguments about which way that game should have went, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you, LSU has been playing some pretty blame good defense.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is the best defense that Tennessee's going to have faced so far this season.
For sure. And granted, Tennessee's had some moments where it's played good defense, but it was a track meet at Florida. As far as those two teams are concerned, it was 38-33. And I really think that the cap that they can get against a decent team is going to be around that 35 mark, like with Pitt. But I think LSU's way better than that. I really think that I think LSU is going to be completely content to have a fist fight for 60 minutes. And I'm not sure Tennessee's going to be able to handle that. So if you ask me, I'm going to take LSU.
Yeah. I think LSU is a 3-point favorite. I'm sorry. Tennessee's a 3-point favorite in this game. So,
yeah.
Even Vegas thinks that this is going to be a close one. So,
yeah. So basically what they're wanting you to do is they're not wanting you to bet this game because they don't know either. That's how I take those really close games like that.
Tennessee's overcoming the home field and still giving 3. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. This game, I could very easily see LSU winning this game outright.
Yeah. I think LSU wins this game outright. And I think a big part of it's going to have to do with the LSU fan base. Those guys are energized again. They kind of see what Brian Kelly can do. and they're seeing that defense play well. I think this is what they've been wanting and hoping for a while. And I think they're going to show up. I think this game is going to be sold out or close to it. And I think it's going to be a problem for Tennessee. This is going to be the first time I think Tennessee has to play against some real noise. They played at Florida, but it's Florida. That place is not known for being that loud, in my opinion. But I think everybody knows that both Death Valleys, call them whichever one you want to, are super loud environments. So,
well, I think LSU's played great defense all year. They just got to find a quarterback, right? I mean,
yeah,
Jaden Daniels, I don't think is definitely living up. These guys aren't living up to the hype, So, defense wise, if they can get out there and get some stops against Tennessee, which I think they will. Like I said, I think this is definitely the stoutest defense that Tennessee is gonna face. Yeah. So. It's going to be a test. It's going to be a test for both teams. Tennessee's known for that offense, and then LSU is going to bring a defense there, and so we're going to see.
I think the big factor in this game is going to be the LSU's quarterback, Jaden Daniels. Why he is not the deep pass prolific passer. He is pretty accurate. He's right at 68, 69%. And this guy will absolutely take off on you. He has 60 rushing attempts for 321 yards, and he averages 5.3. a carry, and that includes any sacks that he's taken. So he's got 3 touchdowns there, and he's got 6 touchdowns through the air. So I don't know that Tennessee has faced a quarterback that has that kind of capability. Guy's probably not going to win the Heisman, don't get me wrong, but he's definitely multifaceted. So I think that may give Tennessee some fits. We'll see what happens. Florida, Missouri. I think this could be an interesting game too. Florida, if Missouri plays the way they played against Georgia, against Florida, I could see them giving Florida a fight here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying real hard not to give Missouri more credit than they're due. I mean, this is the same team that played in the Auburn game the week before. You know what I mean? So
I don't remember what happened that week.
I know it's hard. It's hard to think back.
It's like 60. It was like 60-0, right?
But it just, I don't know, man. I really think Missouri's going to have a letdown going in this Florida game. I think Florida handles business in this game. I don't even know what the line is.
I don't know the line is, but if you give me 2 seconds, I'll tell you. Let's see here, Florida Missouri game summary. Florida is a 71%, and Florida is an 11-point favorite. Over under is 54.
Yeah.
One thing I will go ahead and point out though. I want to point this out. They lost to Auburn. Auburn scored 17 points. Now they did get blown out by KSU early in the season, but I think that's part of being early in the season in your Missouri. They held ACU to 17 points. They held Georgia to 26. Georgia has a pretty good offense when it's popping. But I think their defense doesn't get as much credit as they could or should. I don't think Florida has any idea what they're doing on defense. I mean, I know. Keep in mind, both of these teams are 0-2 in conference. Missouri is 2-3 on the season. Florida is 3-2. I don't know. I'm with you. I hate giving Missouri credit for anything, but think of it this way. If they can come out and they can hold Florida to, 26 points. If they can hold Florida to 26 points, and because they held Georgia to 26 points, I'm not sure that Florida's defense can keep them from scoring, because almost every game they played in, with the exception of the Kentucky game, the team scored at least 26 points. Everybody they played scored at least 26 points. So they don't have much of a defense, with the exception of EWU, but whatever. But my point is that I really think this could be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, as interesting as Florida and Missouri can be this year. You know what I mean?
I can't sway you too much. Johnny, I appreciate the super chat. He says, everyone hates Tennessee. They believe they can beat Bama and Georgia. Don't think so. Give me LSU.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I agree with what you're saying, but hey, if I was a Tennessee fan, I'd be right there with them.
Hey, I need Missouri to win like every game until here on out. Man. I need that close fight to be important. Sarah says Florida's defense is bipolar. What's up, James Willoughby? What's up, Daniel? All right. So now let's talk about the big 54, 12, 8, Yahtzee, whatever number you want to call them. Oklahoma, Texas game. What's your thoughts on this?
I mean,
I think that size says it all, doesn't it?
well, I mean, who knows what's going on with Oklahoma? I mean,
I have no idea. What I will tell you though is brace yourself. Texas is a 9-point favorite in this game.
Yeah.
Now, as bad as they have played at times, they didn't get blown out by KSU.
Right.
They lost to Alabama by a point, and they lost to Texas Tech in overtime by 3 points. This is actually a pretty good Texas team. I'm not saying Texas is back. Don't hit me with the Texas is back. Texas is not back. Texas got a lot of problems they got to fix. But Oklahoma has 2 embarrassing losses back-to-back. They started out looking really good. They only allowed 13 points for UTEP, 3 against Kent State, Nebraska 14, and then they got hammered by KSU and then hammered by TCU. I just don't know. I don't know who to pick in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting that that Texas is the favorite here. With I guess Ewers is still hurt, right? He's done for the season. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm almost certain of it.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, so I would like to. I mean, I still just go back and I'm not a big Texas fan by any stretch of the imagination. Texas is not back, but I would definitely be interested to see where this team would be if Ewers would have stayed in the game because for one, I think they beat Alabama. Obviously,
I agree.
But I mean, they could be sitting there with an interesting. Right? What was their other loss? I don't have their schedule pulled up.
Which team?
Texas. I got it here. Texas Tech.
Alabama and TTU.
Yeah, so I mean, and then they only lost by 3 again. I mean, this team could be undefeated if they had a starting quarterback.
Yeah, and
probably would be undefeated with a win over number 1 team in the country. So I mean,
keep in mind, like Texas Tech played North Carolina pretty close for a while. They beat Murray State 63-10, which is worse than Georgia's beat them some years. I mean, Texas Tech is not a bad team at all. Granted, they're not undefeated or whatever you want to call it, but they're not a bad team. And that game has been kind of a rivalry for a long time. So,
yeah, I mean, I really think if Quinn Ewers was still, I mean, if he was still playing for them, this team would likely be undefeated with a win over number 1 ranked team in the country. They'd be a top 5 team right now, probably top 3 team actually. As much as everybody likes Texas.
Yeah, I would probably put Texas. If that happened that way, I would probably put Texas in the number 4 or 5 spot.
Yeah, they'd be up there for sure. For sure.
All right, so let's jump down. So I really hate that it does that when you mouse over something. It throws it right up, and I hate that. Cincinnati Bearcats.
It's just a tough break for It's just a tough break for Texas.
Yeah. But, I mean, at least you can see that the team is doing better.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not abysmal failure after abysmal failure. Georgia Auburn, we will get to that here in a minute. Oklahoma State versus Texas Tech. That could be a good game. I'll keep it in the back of my mind. But I think the 3:30 game, the only one anybody's really going to be watching is Georgia Auburn. Yeah, everybody wants to see if Georgia's going to bounce back. Now, I love pointing this out. This is why it's hard to be a Georgia fan, guys. Look, the Oklahoma-Texas game is $182, and I get it. I absolutely get it, right? $50, $24, $13 to go to a game. Oh, my goodness. I can't even imagine. I would splurge and get 50-yard line seats on the 50-yard line for $50. Oh, my goodness. Then the Georgia game, $119. So for all of you who are not Georgia fans, you think it's easy being a fan of Georgia? It's not, because this is what it costs. This is the cheapest ticket you can get to go to a game. Cheapest ticket you can get. And this is not considered this is the Deep South's oldest rivalry. We'll get into that. But this is not even a ranked Auburn. Look at all these other teams. $9. $111 Notre Dame BYU. And then that's it. So there's 3 teams all day that's going to cost you over $100 just to get in the stadium, and Georgia's one of them. So that's what it's like being a Georgia fan, guys.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, K-Dog? What's up, Zephyroff? Appreciate you guys being here. He said it's been that way at Bama since 09. It's always been expensive to go to a Georgia game. Like even back whenever Georgia was playing, when Missouri entered the SEC. When Missouri entered the SEC, I went to that game. That ticket cost me $283. And it wasn't even that good of a seat other than it was at the game. So that's one of the breaks of being a Georgia fan. Anyway, we'll come back to that. UCLA versus Utah. I think Utah beats the crap out of these guys. What do you think?
I'm not so sure. UCLA is doing great. They're undefeated, right?
I think so.
I think they're undefeated. I need to pull the schedule up.
They played BGSU,
UCLA is undefeated.
ALST, USA, Colorado, and number 15 ranked Washington.
Yeah, the win over Washington was really impressive. I remember watching that game. That game was on late last week, if I'm not mistaken. That was the one I was watching like 1 o'clock in the morning because the ending was interesting, if I remember correctly. It was very, very good game. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This game, this is another one of those. I'm not really sold on Utah.
Okay.
I mean, they lost to Florida right off the rip, and then they put up some impressive numbers against teams that they should have beat. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a good test for both of the teams. I mean, Utah. It looks like Utah's a 3.5 point favorite. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm looking at. I don't think this is one as clear cut. I would not be surprised to see UCLA, and in fact, my gut is telling me to pick UCLA in this game. I mean that's an impressive win over Washington in my opinion. Michael Penix there has been playing lights out all year, and I really thought Washington was going to win that game. So that was an impressive win. That's enough to make me pick UCLA. I think you're muted, by the way.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. My only thing is that there was a close game that they had with USA. And then, they beat Washington, but just barely. 8 points. I get it. And they, the other teams, they dominated. And they dominated what I would consider to be lesser teams. I 100% see where you're coming from. That was an impressive game. I will give them the discount against Florida up front on that first game of the season, only because it was the first game of the season. If it was in a different order, I would put more weight on it. But what I've seen since then out of Utah is these guys play bully ball. Like, they are just mean. Since that game, they have scored no less than 34 points in a game, and their opponents have scored no more than 16. That is just meanness. It's just meanness. And that's why I like Utah, is because that's what they did to Oregon last year. They have that mentality of just being mean and hateful, and I like that. I like seeing football players get out there and just get mean with it. I'm interested to see how UCLA is going to respond, especially after that fifth fight with Washington last week, so if they can bounce back. We'll see what happens. But I can totally understand picking UCLA.
Yeah. I remember I just pulled the game cast of that game up. Yeah, the UCLA's quarterback, that Dorian Thompson-Robinson, that dude is good. That dude was super impressive in that game. That was 2 great quarterbacks, honestly, in that game last week. So, I don't know. I'm taking UCLA in this game.
Okay.
For sure.
Good deal. All right, let's see who else we got here. Let me check on the chat real quick. What's up, Alex MLD? How's it going on, Cool Breeze? Look at all these supporters in here of the channel. Man, I love it. Love you guys. 225 girl, how you been? What it is? Where it's gonna be like? Welcome back. Sepita on the Sepita. Yeah, you ain't cool if you don't know what that is. Sepita on the Sepita. All right, let's see. Pitt, Virginia Tech. I might check in on that game. Ole Miss versus Vanderbilt. Ole Miss ought to destroy Vanderbilt.
Oh, yeah.
Washington versus Arizona State.
I think Washington.
Yeah, definitely picking Washington in that game. App State versus Texas State. The Bobcats. You know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna check this one out just to see because
It's not a Power 5 team, so App State probably gonna lose, right?
right. Let me see if I can get this pulled up real quick. Yeah, they got App State at 85% likely to win this game. Yeah, that's not the same team I thought it was. Let's move on. Clemson versus Boston College. Didn't they lose to Boston College one year?
Yeah, I mean, was it
2 years ago?
I don't know. It may have even been last year.
May have been last year. Yeah, that was it's crazy. Yeah, Clemson's got a 94% chance of winning this game.
I'm not. I think Clemson just feels like they feel like they're just on the verge of losing a game, right? I mean, these guys are benefiting from playing in the ACC big time.
Well, yes, but I mean, they had that close comeback win in double overtime against Wake Forest, and then they beat number 10 NC State by 10 points from 30-20. And other than that, I mean, they've beaten the teams they played. But
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, they just they're not they're the 5th team in the country, but it reminds me of old high ranked Mark Richt, Georgia, right? It was like we're not going to blow anybody away, but we're just going to win.
We're going to win
until it matters, and then we're going to
dominate anybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it feels like to me, and it's I don't know. They just seem like they're going to lose a game this year that nobody sees coming.
So let's jump down. I agree with you. Let's jump down to the where's it at? Right here, North Carolina versus Miami. I've been kind of big on the Tar Heels this year, but I think Miami, even though Miami is a 3.5-point favorite in this game, I think Miami might lose this game. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Miami is nowhere near as good as everybody thought they was. I thought they were going to be the beginning of the year. I mean, Miami's another one of those teams that everybody. I think it just feels like the football media, college football media, just wants them to be good every year.
They're trying to pump them up, man, and it's pretty much every stat line you can find. North Carolina is better than Miami, and that includes the win-loss column, right? So,
well, I think a lot of people just expected Mario Cristobal to go over there and and kind of turn them around, and I think I did too. I mean, and it's still early, but I mean, they're definitely underperforming this year for sure.
Yeah, I mean they lost Texas A&M, number 24 ranked Texas A&M, which may not even be a realistic ranking for them. Of course, we'll get into that game here in just a minute. But the Texas A&M game, they lost that game 17-9. I mean, they had zero offense. Then they come out and they lose again to MTSU 45-31, and it's like, what are you guys doing over there?
Yeah, the Middle Tennessee State game, that was a tough one. That was, I mean, you could give them Texas A&M, I guess, but the loss to Middle Tennessee State is kind of unforgivable. I mean,
yeah,
and this,
yeah. So for me, looking at the quarterback,
and these teams, these lesser teams have just been killing the ACC this year.
Oh yeah,
I think they might stop scheduling those guys. I mean, they played a lot of them early on the road. Like I think was it Virginia Tech went to wherever it was they went to and lost. I forget where. And then North Carolina played on the road at one of these schools and almost lost. And I think what was it? App State won at home, right? I think that was in App State when they lost they won that game. So I mean, I don't understand why they were going on the road playing these guys on the road. But I mean, I know this is a home game. That was a home game for Miami, in the Middle Tennessee State. But that was a tough loss. That was an embarrassing loss for Miami,
for sure. I think the quarterback may. This guy he's got almost 1,600 yards on the season versus Miami's Van Dyke. He's only got 800 on the season. He's only got 4 touchdowns and he's throwing 3 interceptions. I'm going to take the Tar Heels on here. I think the Tar Heels are going to light these guys up.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think the Tar Heels are just going to absolutely light them up. That's just think that's what's going to happen, but what can you do? T Money says that Dabo's never lost to British Columbia.
Okay.
So I appreciate that. Thank you for giving me that information, because to be honest with you, man, it is really hard to keep up with who all wins and loses after every season. So when we make comments like that and you guys catch it, that please let us know. South Carolina versus Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kentucky rolls.
I got to point something out, though. Now, South Carolina has scored 56 points against CLT and 50 points against South Carolina State. That seems like a decent offense. I might be a little bit concerned about, can Kentucky's secondary deal with that? Because I think they're kind of starting to hit their stride. They're playing at Kentucky, and Kentucky is less than a 7-point favorite. I think Kentucky wins this game, but I think it's going to be closer than what people think. I think they may win by a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Kentucky's been playing some pretty decent defense this year, and if you can get some pressure on what's his name, their quarterback, the Oklahoma transfer,
Rattler.
I always want to call him Desmond Ritter for some reason. I don't know why. I guess it's the R.
Cincinnati,
yeah. So Spencer Rattler, yeah. So I mean, we showed that if you can put some pressure on him and not let him, because the kid can throw the ball, right? So I mean, the question is he going to have enough time to sit back there and throw? So
yeah. Well, Spencer Rattler has 4 touchdowns on the season, but he has 7 interceptions.
Yeah.
Whilst Will Levis has 12 touchdowns and 4 interceptions.
So, yeah, and Levis kind of, he kind of crapped the bed in the ending of that game last week. That was rough. That was rough to watch.
We'll see how he bounces back. Sometimes kids will have a little bit of a wake-up call the next week. Sometimes they have a little bit of brain fog. Hopefully he'll bounce back. But I'm going to take Kentucky.
Yeah, I think Kentucky's the easy pick in this one. I don't think South Carolina is there yet.
No.
I don't know if they're going to be.
They're not going to be with Rattler at the helm.
Yeah, and you remember, was it just a couple of years ago when you had South Carolina and Tennessee making coaches changes? Everything was crazy at both schools, and I mean, I think Tennessee has righted the ship quite a bit faster than South Carolina has.
So T Money manning up right here. He went and fact checked himself. He was like, actually, it says Dabo is 10-1 against BC. I thought I heard him say that he never lost. My bad. It's cool, dude. Thank you for correcting your correction, because we would have then been saying that. So appreciate the update. Okay, Army versus Wake Forest.
Wake Forest.
I'm taking Army. I'm gonna take Army every time.
There you go.
I'll take Army against the 85 Bears. I'm just saying. I have a lot of respect for those guys over at the military academies. Get out there and play football like that. That's kind of nobody takes a football scholarship to Army with the intention of going pro. Now it does happen. They have put NFL players out there, but most of the time that's not where you're going to try and go pro. Let's see here. Alabama versus Texas A&M. We'll get there. I do want to talk about NC State, and then we'll back up and talk about Georgia, Alabama, Texas A&M, and Auburn. So North Carolina State, number 14 ranked. North Carolina State versus Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, I think I ain't gonna say it's gonna be an easy win, but I think this is definitely I think I called this game earlier, actually. So NC State, I think, is gonna win this game easily. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout or anything, but I think it's gonna be a pretty comfortable game. I think Florida State had the tough 3 games in a row after starting the season off. They got Wake Forest. I think they got NC State this week, and then I want to say they play Clemson next week, if I remember correctly. I think they're gonna go 0-3 in that stretch. And, I mean, Florida State, like I said, I think Norvell's turning everything around on there. Jordan Travis been playing lights out for them. Finally, they got somebody there to play quarterback, but not quite there yet. I think FSU's on the road to being a 500 team right now.
I think you're probably right about the overall record, and I'm for some reason I'm loving to play devil's advocate tonight. But for me, the flip side of the coin is I'm looking at FSU's quarterback Travis. He's at 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. Leary, North Carolina State's quarterback, is 1,135, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So he's got a few more touchdowns, but he's got 2 more interceptions. And I'm curious as to how that's going to play out. Last week, Florida State loses by 10 points to Wake Forest. North Carolina loses by 10 points to Clemson. Scores in those games, 31-21, 30-20. I think these are – and the week prior, Florida State played Boston College. It was 44-14. North Carolina State plays Connecticut. It was 41-10. These games, these teams, in my opinion, are very similarly matched. I don't know if the deciding factor will be that they're playing at North Carolina, but I'm going to tell you, I think it's going to be a good game. I think Florida State really wants to get past that loss to Wake Forest, and I think North Carolina State wants to get past that loss to Clemson. I think both of them feel like they got a lot to prove. I'm leaning towards Seminoles, man.
Not really. Yeah. I don't know. I think I don't know. I was pretty high on NC State at the beginning of the year, actually. I mean, I get what you're saying. I think they are a lot closer, in strength than this ranking would have you see.
Right.
With Florida State being unranked entirely, and I mean, I think that's just, based off of where Florida State's coming from.
Right.
I mean, they've had some pretty decent wins. Consider, if you compare them to every other, were they 4-1?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you compare them to other 4-1 teams. I mean, they got wins against LSU, win against Louisville, win against Boston College. I mean, I think it was coming into this week. I think there was some statistic about they were the only team that had like 3 wins over Power 5 teams or something like. I can't remember what the statistic was, but there was an interesting statistic about what they've achieved so far this season. And I mean, that was at Wake Forest. I mean, that was a tough game, a tough opponent. And so, I mean, they've been impressive. They're definitely turning their season around, but you could make an argument that, if you just looked at this season in a vacuum and if they didn't have to carry the baggage of the past 2 or 3 years, this Florida State team should be ranked going into this game.
Yeah. Well, they were ranked. I think they are ranked, are they? Yeah.
No, they're not now. They're not right now, but
they were ranked 23rd last week.
Yeah, I mean, they did what they came in after. I mean,
they lost to Wake Forest. That's right.
Yeah, they lost to Wake Forest. They were ranked when they lost to Wake Forest, and that knocked them back out of the top 25. But you could make an argument that out of the 4-1 teams in the country, they probably have at least as good of a resume as any of them.
Oh, I would agree. I mean, if you look back, Wake Forest lost to Clemson by 6 points, and then the next week they beat Florida State by 10. I think all of these teams are a lot closer in skill level than what we realize at this point.
Yeah.
We'll know more later in the season, but I think right now, just looking at the way these guys are playing, I think Wake Forest, NC State, FSU, and Clemson are all a lot closer than what we realize.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think Florida State's going to get blown out in any of these games, but I do think they lose to NC State and then to Clemson next week. NC State is a 3-point favorite. I'm just looking at the line now. 3-point favorite.
3.5. 3.5.
3. Yeah, and they're at home too. So, so this is basically a coin flip. So it kind of supports what you're saying. It's going to be closer. The over under is 50. So,
I think they'll go over that. I think they'll go over that.
Yeah, they're essentially saying this is like a 26-23 type game.
Yeah. That's what they're saying. I think it'll be in the 30s. I think both teams will be in the 30s.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
the Vegas line there is pretty. I mean, it's pretty on point. I think NC State wins. I think they cover that. Honestly, if I was going to make a bet on the game,
yeah,
but not by much. I mean, I think NC State wins by a touchdown or so.
yeah. Cool Breeze says, "Did you talk about Notre Dame BYU yet? Appreciate you being a member." So no, we have not, but we will. If you had not have asked, I probably would have just skipped on past it. And is how Notre Dame is Notre Dame and BYU is BYU. Where is that game? Here it is. So that game's at 7:30. I guess more of a big ticket kind of game. I don't know a whole lot about BYU, to be honest with you. Usually, they kind of fly under the radar. They're currently ranked number 16. Notre Dame, even though they're 2-2, Vegas is giving them a 3.5 point favorite at home. So again, a coin toss here. I just don't know. They did beat UNC 45-32. They beat Cal 24-17. But I mean, they lost to Oklahoma State, Ohio State, and Marshall. And everybody laughed at them for losing to Marshall. Not as bad as they would have left at Georgia if we'd have lost to Kent State. But I digress. I don't know. Maybe they got the ship righted here. They got it figured out and turned around. BYU is pretty much. I mean, I don't know. They're BYU. I don't know. I don't know much about BYU. So.
Yeah. I mean, I do think it's interesting when you have a team like this that's unranked in Notre Dame, and then you have, a team like BYU that's ranked like 16, and then you see that Vegas has Notre Dame the favorite. They're basically just giving them the home field advantage favorite here with the line. But, Vegas doesn't, I mean,
Vegas doesn't care about rankings.
Let's say Vegas doesn't care about ranking, and they don't care that it's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Which
they don't care one way or the other.
Yeah. So, and Vegas has been on point so far this year. If you go back and look when they have predicted the non-ranked team to beat the ranked team. So
wait a minute. We got to back up. Isn't this game played in Vegas?
Is it?
I think so.
Oh, it is. It is being played in Vegas, which is funny. That is funny. But I think Vegas. I remember specifically two. I think there's been two that I can recall where Vegas has predicted. I think it was Washington over somebody when Washington was unranked. They predicted Washington to beat somebody that was ranked. Was it Michigan State, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah. Have a good night. Have a good night, Michael. Thanks for supporting the show, sir.
But there's been a couple of games this year so far where Vegas has picked the non-ranked team against a decently ranked team, and Vegas has been right every time that I've noticed it. So, yeah. So I mean,
on a neutral site,
I wouldn't vote against them, I guess. So,
well, let's talk about BYU, which is basically a religious college, right? Playing in Sin City. Does anybody else not see the irony in that? That football team's not going to be allowed. They're not even going to be allowed in the hotel. Not going to be allowed to leave the hotel. They ain't going to be able to order room service. Why did y'all send these folks to Vegas? Oh my goodness. Yeah, maybe it's just me. I found some humor in that. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get Alabama and Texas A&M out. An 8:00 game. You guys are killing me. These late games. Why y'all? This is in Tuscaloosa at 8:00. Why couldn't y'all do it at 7? There ain't no good games on at 7. None. Look at these games: Air Force, Wyoming, App State, Troy, Florida International. Sounds like a fishing contest. UTEP. That's all the 7:00 games. That's all of the 7:00 games. Y'all got to go to 8:00. All right, well, you special. All right, fine. All right. Thoughts?
I think Alabama. I think Alabama wins this game. I don't know. I unfortunately I didn't get to watch a lot of football this past Saturday. I did watch the Georgia game, but I had some family stuff going on, so I didn't see. I watched it at dinner. We were eating in a restaurant, so I saw the Alabama Arkansas game on TV. So I didn't even realize when that game was over that Bryce Young had gotten hurt. So I know I saw that he's said that he's day to day. So I haven't seen an update. Is he expected to play in this game?
They say that he's going to be there. That's basically all we've been told so far. Saban did come out and say that there's no structural damage to his right throwing shoulder, but said a final decision on Young's playing status for Saturday's game against Texas A&M might not come until pregame warmup, which I think is absolute baloney. I don't think Young is playing. I think that they're going to play the backup, and here's why. I think Alabama absolutely believes that they can steamroll Texas even with a backup. Texas A&M's quarterback is not great. He's okay. He's not great. Their running back is pretty good, but he's got to run against Alabama. Alabama's got a great defense. The only area that I could say Alabama might be struggling in is in their receiving core, but it doesn't really seem to have hurt them so far. Their offense has been playing great. Their defense had their worst outing against number 20 ranked Arkansas, and they only scored 26. Now, I'm not talking about the Texas game because I think there was a lot to win in that game, but I think the way they've blown everybody else out, USU 55-0, ULM 63-7, Vanderbilt 55-3, and then Arkansas 40. They still scored 49 points against Arkansas, 49-26. I don't think Texas A&M can keep up. I just don't think they can.
Yeah.
So for me, I think Alabama wins this game even with a backup. Their backup is more of a mobile quarterback, unless I'm mistaken. I don't think his numbers were terrible, but I think his numbers were pretty good in that last game.
Yeah, I was gonna say I looked when I saw that Bryce Young was hurt. I went in and looked, tried to see what their backup quarterback did. It looks like they didn't really ask him to do a whole lot, considering the fact
he went
played
16 on the year. He's 16 for 27, 60%. They're averaging about 6 yards a pass, a couple of touchdowns and an INT. 12 rushing attempts for 163 yards. That's averaging almost 14 yards a carry. That is the best on the team by almost double.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the guy is definitely mobile. I think that and let's talk about Jahmyr Gibbs. All right. Jahmyr Gibbs. This guy's not getting enough credit. Jahmyr Gibbs, 43 attempts, 378 yards, 8.8 average as a running back. Listen to me. 8.8. 8.8 on 43 carries. My gosh. That is ridiculous. And if you think that's bad, the backup, Jace McClellan, 35, 256 yards, 7.3 average. I think Alabama can line up and just hand it off.
That's what they're going to do. Yeah, I mean, if Jalen Milroe starts, I mean, I think if Bryce Young does not start this game, it's going to tell you what Alabama's planning on doing. And even if Bryce Young plays in this game, I think that's what they're going to do. I don't think for a second Bryce Young is going to be out there. If Saban takes a chance to play Bryce Young, unless he just absolutely has to, I don't think you're going to see a lot of scrambling and throwing. I think they're going to run the ball until they can't.
Yeah. What's up, Andy?
There's no reason not to.
Yeah, there's no reason not to. Cool Breeze asked, would you rather have Jalen Milroe or Stetson Bennett?
Stetson Bennett's a national championship quarterback. I mean, why would I take anybody else?
Not to mention that he's thrown for over 300 yards in every game so far this season. Is that right? I believe so. Also, he's got about 10 years of experience at the quarterback position.
Yeah, really.
Plus 4 or 5 years at JUCOs. So, I mean, he's at this point, he's got nearly as much experience as Tom Brady. So, I'm going to go with the guy who's got some experience. What's that?
That's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, that's
now, I'll tell you the most interesting thing that's going to happen, in my opinion, at this Texas A&M and Alabama game is if the coaches meet before the game at the PR line. I would love to be like just the fly, like I'd like to catch that. I mean, I think the media and everybody's. I doubt anything is said. By the way. But I think that's what the media is going to be hyping up about this game, right? Is what's going to happen? What are they going to say to each other? Are they even going to go meet at the 50-yard line?
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me, boy. I'll let you figure out which one's going to say that. So here's the hold on. Cool Breeze is like, would we take Jalen or Stetson because you watch Missouri game? Hey, I'm gonna tell you right now. At some point, Jalen Milroe is gonna have a bad game. Every quarterback has a bad game at some point. The man in the second half went 14 for 19. I mean, if you're gonna play good in the second half, right? Because that's how we beat that's how we beat Alabama for the national championship with that quarterback. Was by playing well in the second half.
Hey, Jalen Milroe is not going to do any better if the offensive line doesn't do any better than what Stetson Bennett was playing behind. Don't get me wrong. Stetson made some mistakes. He done another one of those ball flying out of his hands for no reason. Yeah. Although this time they called it an incomplete pass when last year in the national championship game was a fumble. Exact same play. Almost the exact same thing happened.
Yep. The only difference was the
ball went forward. Everything
the only difference was that a defender didn't catch it. That's the only
exactly. I mean, even the defender last year in the national championship game, when he picked it up, thought that it was an incomplete pass. He didn't even realize he had picked up a fumble. But that made me laugh out loud when they called that play an incomplete pass because I just knew it was going to be a fumble. I was like, we've seen this before.
Yeah, that's fumble. But anyway, I know it's fumble.
So, I mean, yeah, Stetson had another one of those plays, but,
I've seen this Eminem before, but this time they called it a 3.
So, I don't know. He didn't look. Missouri whooped Georgia up front in the trenches for 3/4 of that football game, and that was the difference. I mean, Georgia just got manhandled at the line of scrimmage by Missouri, and and that's you can say what you want to, but that's one of the things that's always defined Missouri is they have had a line on both sides of the ball. They've always had that.
So let me.
So and Georgia's just, I mean, we're young there. So
let me give you some stats here, Cool Breeze, because I want to make sure you're a well informed person. I know you watched the game, and I appreciate that. But here's what I want to tell you: Stetson Bennett has 116 completions on 167 attempts for 1,500 yards, and he's averaging 70% completion rate with an average of 9.2, and that's with him taking 4 sacks. The sacks are not his fault. The sacks are the offensive line's fault for the most part. So what I'm trying to tell you is that I will take a quarterback with a 70% completion rating over pretty much any quarterback out there. By the way, Jalen Milroe has a 59.3% completion rating.
I'll put it this way, right? I mean, Georgia has backup quarterbacks that are probably as good as Jalen Milroe, and they're not playing over Stetson. So
yeah, Carson Beck. I would put Carson Beck above Jalen Milroe at this point because I have seen Carson Beck wild out, and I'm going to tell you the moment that Stetson Bennett hangs up his Georgia uniform, you ain't going to see a happier guy than me because it'll be like the first time a good 4-star quarterback has played at Georgia since Matt Stafford. So I'm going to tell you, y'all better watch out for Carson Beck. If you don't know who that is, go check him out because there's videos everywhere. Let me get off this train real quick. I'm going to take Alabama in this game by 20. At halftime.
I don't know. Something just tells me it's not going to be that easy. I don't know. At least it's not on the road, but I mean, I don't know, man. The line's 24. We don't know what's going on with their quarterback. I know they're going to run the ball. Texas A&M's had this game scheduled. Circled. I don't know.
Yeah, they were forced to circle it though.
Yeah, I don't know. Texas A&M also is nowhere near as good as people hope they would be going into this game. So, I mean, I'll put it this way: I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama wins by 40, and I also wouldn't be surprised if Alabama loses this game.
I would be very surprised if Alabama loses this game because I can guarantee you the moment that press conference happened, where Jimbo Fisher was out there going, wah, 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 wah. Just go look up Nick Saban. You can find anything you want to find. Wah, 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 wah. Nick Saban went, okay, gotcha. And they've been looking at this game all year because all of those players are going to say that they cannot lose to Texas A&M because then that means that they got beat with bought talent. Money can't buy you love, money can't buy you happiness, and money can't buy you heart. And I think that most programs do have a little bit of something, but ain't nobody put out as much money as Texas A&M did. I mean, I got video of a coaching staff person telling them all these people in these booster seats, they're the ones paying y'all. Not they said that, not me. I didn't say that. They said that. And because they said that, there's a lot to be said because there's all kind of players on an Alabama team that's been there a long time. They ain't got no NIL agreement. I guarantee you they're going to go out there and show up. Guarantee it. And Nick Saban is not going to put up with no back talk from Jimbo Fisher. It ain't going to happen. So I look for Alabama to run up the score. I think Alabama's going to just go out there and just give them all they can stand and then some. And no, I don't think he's going to take his foot off the gas pedal.
No, I don't think he does.
He's going to prove a point.
I mean, if he
is going to say, I don't care how much money, because if he wins this game, here's what he can say. You can see how much money they're going to throw at you at Texas A&M. That's fine. We'll kick your behind anyway. And if you want to go pro, this is the program to be at. That's where the real money is. So if you want to go over there and get your little $20 bill, go ahead and get that. But if you want to go to the NFL, this is where you need to be. And we just proved it last year because we beat a team that had 30 or 40 of the best players in the country on it because they bought them. That's what he's going to say. I'm not saying I agree with the sentiment. I'm just saying that's what he's going to say.
I agree with the sentiment. I agree with it because, I mean, that's the same thing Georgia's saying. I mean, that's what Kirby has said, right? I mean, you know, we don't prepare our players for NIL money. He's like, we prepare our players to play in the NFL. There's more money there. You know?
We don't play for NIL. We play for NFL.
Yeah.
And if you look at all the players, look at the players that came from Georgia that's been balling out. But you got Jordan Davis. You got Azeez Ojulari. You got George Pickens having a hell of a year.
I mean, Nick Chubb is,
DeAndre Swift, Hot Rod. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And when all those players come back and they visit the new recruits and they're standing there with NFL gear on from about 10 different teams, there ain't no way that doesn't make an impact. That's literally taking $1 on a dime. Because you can take your dime right here and go play for Texas A&M and get you kick 4 or 5 games a year, or you can be on a national championship contender and go pro.
Yep.
So
I don't think if Alabama has the opportunity, or if they're gas pedaling and just blowing this away, I don't think they take the foot off. No, I don't. I don't know. I don't feel like this is going to be that type of game though. I don't know why. I just don't.
Well. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. All right, so let's talk about the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Not only is it the Deep South's oldest rivalry, it is the South's oldest rivalry because I believe Virginia and some other team, they call it the South's oldest rivalry, even though Georgia played 8 months before they did. Thereby, even if it was a day, that makes Georgia versus Auburn the oldest in the Deep South's oldest. There's only one other team out there that's actually played longer than Georgia, and it's Minnesota and I think Michigan. I could be mistaken. But theirs is like 1 or 2 years before ours. This game goes all the way back to 1892. 1892, in which Auburn beat us that first game, I think 10-0. So I'll give them credit for that. But here lately, Georgia's been kicking off in that behind. I think Georgia's on a winning streak of 5 or 6 straight. Man, this is just going to be I never get tired of beating Auburn. I just don't. And I'm kind of disappointed they let go of Gus because he was such an easy target. What's your thoughts on Auburn there, Keith?
I mean, you know, as far as Auburn as a whole, I think they're dumpster fire in my opinion. But I think Georgia. I really hope that Georgia gets their offense fixed up in this game. I know I see the line at like 29.5. You know, being realistic, I don't know about that. I mean, the last few games has been me kind of hesitant to pick Georgia blowing a team out. I need to see it again.
Yeah.
I don't know what's gotten into the water at Georgia. I know the Missouri game, like I said, we got whooped up front. But I think Georgia and early on in the season, we were praising Monken for his offensive play call, especially in the Oregon game. I mean, they had that game scripted. I know they had all kinds of time to prepare for it, and now it's a little different during the season when you're kind of having to prepare each week for the team you're facing. So I mean, I think that's probably got a little bit to do with it, but we got to figure out a way to get the ball to our playmakers, and I think A.D. Mitchell not being out there, Arian Smith not being out there, and being able to, to kind of stretch the field a little bit has hurt tremendously. You can see, every pass that we've just about attempted has been out to the boundary, to try to stretch the team side to side, and I mean, we got to get the ball. We got to get the ball to Bowers. We got to get it to him earlier than we did last week. I know teams are trying to shut him down, and we're doing a pretty good job getting the ball out to Darnell when that's happening. But if we can get the ball to these guys a little bit more consistently. I mean, you think back, was it the South Carolina game when we ran the end around or whatever it was to Brock Bowers and got on the ball? We haven't seen that again. It was, super effective. And these guys, they do work at the line of scrimmage, I mean, Darnell and Brock do great at the line of scrimmage. So put them out there together. Let one of them, design something again where we can run or get the ball out in the perimeter to one of them behind the other one, I mean, I don't know. It was just disappointing last week. I know our offensive line wasn't really holding up and Stetson was running for his life a lot, but so we got to get a little bit of stability there. But yeah, I mean, I think Georgia rebounds. I think we do a lot better. I think the Georgia that we've been seeing shows up.
Yeah. So my thought process on the whole game kind of boils down to this. I think the Kent State game, Georgia thought they were going to win that game, and I don't think they really prepared for that game. And then they kind of went, you know what, it's Missouri, not a big deal. And I think the coaches got after the players a little bit that week versus Kent State, and then the Missouri game showed up, and the Missouri game was a fight. People say what they want to say. We got out physical.
Yeah, for sure.
Usual. And I don't know if it was because the players stayed out too late drinking or they was skipping rope at 3 a.m. when they should have been resting. I don't know what was going on. But what I can tell you is that watching that Georgia offensive line get pushed around like that by a bunch of 3 and lower star players pushing around 4 and 5 stars, absolutely unacceptable. I don't care how many defensive receiver. I don't care how many receivers we were missing. Their defense was not that good and is not that good. Georgia should have been able to roll Brock out there. We didn't target him not even one time until halfway through the second quarter, which I thought was just about as dumb as a move you can make. Georgia didn't start getting any push on the offensive line until midway through the fourth quarter, in my opinion. And it was like Georgia finally decided to play at that point. And I was so frustrated at that point. I remember me and you were texting back and forth, and you were like, we may lose this game. And I'm like, God, I don't want to admit that right now.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's what Georgia was playing.
That's what it looked like. I mean, we couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
It was like anytime we got anything going, it was like, whoop, it stalled and we had to kick field goal. I mean, Georgia, we got to find a way once, like 225 girl said, that's one of the things I was going to say tonight. Red zone, we got to get touchdowns. We got to get the ball into the end zone. We kicked way too many field goals in that Missouri game.
Yeah, and there's absolutely no reason why. I mean, I was really excited to see us go for it on that 1 4th down. I was like, finally.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Yep.
One of the things that it felt like is that game felt like some of the very early season games when we were watching Kirby Smart play as a first-time head coach. We're so used to watching Georgia go out there and dominate in the past season and the first few games of this season, last season and first few games of this season, that when we see a struggle game like this, man, we're all like panicking. I don't care what Kirby Smart says about who we're playing. We could be playing a middle school team, and he would come out there and he would say, well, got a lot of respect for the middle school team. That's a really well coached physical football team. We expect it to be a tough game. He says that about everybody we play. Now, he don't believe that whenever he says we're going to play App State App State in a normal year, I might add. But just the performance that we saw last week cannot continue. Georgia has to find a way to become dominant and physical again. We were playing on our heels instead of leaning forward over our cleats. The tape don't lie. Video don't lie. And I went back and watched a lot of that stuff, and it just looked like we were either not ready when the ball was snapped mentally or just thought we were going to have the game handed to us. And if you play that way against a Tennessee, you play that way even against a Florida, and they're going to eat your lunch because they do have some talent on those teams.
Yeah.
The only reason Georgia has won the past 2 games is because we just out-talented them. That's it. It was not. They were not out-coached. We didn't have the attitude that we needed to have. It was like watching. White Men Can't Jump. Wesley Snipes out there just draining threes. He's not trying hard. It's just that's what he does normally. And so when he gets into a game with real somebody and they're really trying, it's an equal talent level, he got his teeth kicked in. And that's what we saw. Except these guys weren't as talented. Anyway, I expect Georgia. Georgia has not lost a home game to Auburn, I think, since 2005. I may have to do a little homework on that to double check, but I think it's 17. Since 17, I think it was. It's been 5 years. Georgia has to come out and state its dominance. Georgia cannot let Auburn hang around or have the lead. None of that stuff.
Well, that's what happened in the Missouri game is, I think Georgia early on, got down, was at 13-0.
Yeah.
And like that happened seemingly very quickly. And I think they started panicking, which was that's what made me send you the text about we may lose this game, is it looked like they were panicking and that they were just trying everything they could. I mean, you see the fake field goal.
Yeah.
That was just, I know that play was called just to try to spark something, and so I think this team, I think you saw a team, like you said, they were a young team that was just expecting to be able to go out there and win a game. And, this team is not the team from last year. And the team from last year had that game, the very first game of the year, that game against Clemson, they had that game been circled all year, and we won that game. And if you look back, the team that ended up last year, the Georgia team that ended up last year, should have blown that Clemson team away, if you really think about it. So if you go back and look at the entirety of last year, that game was like this last game. Georgia played down. We couldn't do anything. Now I know we had a little bit of a quarterback situation going into that game. Not real sure what was going on with the quarterback going into the Clemson game, but we knew JT ended up hurt. We were wondering like what the hell happened to JT in this game. They weren't even throwing the ball. Turns out he was hurt. But
right,
when you go back and look at last year, we had this kind of game early where they were like, oh crap, this isn't going to come easy. We got to work. Well, this year, this team is not last year's team. It's not as disciplined. It's a little bit younger team. A little bit things have changed. We got a lot has changed since last year. And so, and we steamrolled everybody pretty much up until now. And so I think this team learned a lot. I do think what Kirby says about, in close games like this, you learn way more in a game like this than you do when you beat Oregon 49-3.
I agree with you 100%. The thing that irritates me, and I mean it irritates me to no end, is the lack of just motivation to go out there and dominate your opponent. Like I'm never going to be okay with a ho-hum performance and then turn it up at the end. I don't want that, and I know coaches don't either. They want 100%, 150% from whistle to whistle. That's what they want, and that's what it needs to be. So,
yeah, and that's the interesting thing is it's like, they turned it on at the end, and I don't know if it was because, they finally realized that, hey, we can win this game, or is it that Missouri just lost their legs and our conditioning just showed out? Or I don't know what the difference was there, but hopefully these guys learned that, even though just because I'm playing at University of Georgia, I'm still going to have to beat the guy that's across the line of scrimmage for me. I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's what it's about. You got recruited and you came to Georgia because we expect you to beat the guy across the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And that's what we expect day in and day out and every snap. And, I think that has to be instilled in the guys, and games like this will do that, hurt your pride a little bit,
Well, sometimes you need your pride hurt. I mean, if you go back and you look at last year's game, the SEC championship game, we got beat. That made Georgia better.
Mm-hmm.
It made Georgia a lot better. So I'm looking forward to seeing that again. It's going to be. I don't think Alabama is as good this year as they are in most years. I don't think Georgia's as good this year as they were last year. I don't think Ohio State is as good as Georgia or Alabama were last year, but I still think Ohio State's good. I want to see what happens between Ohio State and Michigan here at the end of the season. I don't think Clemson's as good as they have been in years past. So overall, it looks like more of a leveling of a playing field. I won't say that teams are not as good. Maybe they're not. But we're still kind of midway through the season. We'll find out more as we go. But I think the field's a little more level now. Tennessee is a little bit better. Florida's a little bit down. South Carolina's a little bit better. Vanderbilt looked like they were better. Arkansas is definitely better. Mississippi State looks better. Ole Miss is a little bit better than they were a few years ago, but not as good as they were maybe last year. Texas A&M is down, even though they were up last year. LSU looks to be up. So, I mean, it's kind of, like I said, a leveling of a playing field.
Yeah.
Have a good night, sir. I hope you get feeling better. And appreciate you supporting the channel, hon. All these teams will get better by the end of the season. You're right, T-Money. But for my money, I'm going to take Georgia over Auburn. Given that this game is at what time?
It's 3:30.
3:30. Damn, I was hoping to be a night game. I'd love a night game.
Well, that's the thing.
I don't like noon games, but 3:30 will be fine.
Have you seen that? Did you? I think Brandon Adams talked about this with he looked up the scheduling over the past, I forget how many years, but comparing all the SEC teams and how many times they've gotten to play at home at night.
Yeah.
And all these, just about every team in the SEC has been home at night, I don't know, 40 something times. I don't know if he looked over the past 10 years or however long it was. Most of them were in the 30 to 40 range of night home games or something like that.
Wow.
And I think Georgia, it was probably longer than 10 years, but it was, but Georgia was significantly lower than everybody. They were in the teens, lower than everybody else. Yeah.
That's kind of the lights.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's kind of the thing that's going on right now is Georgia just never gets a home night game. And see, they were hoping this Auburn game was going to be that, but then they flexed the Alabama. I think it was the Alabama A&M game. Yeah. Ended up getting the night game instead of us with Auburn, so
Georgia got to find a way to fix that.
Yeah.
Georgia's favored by almost 30 points in this game. I think Georgia wins this game, but I don't think Georgia covers 30 points.
I can't predict Georgia covering 30 points until I see it. I need to see some fixes on offense. And I know, like I said, AD Mitchell is day to day. Arian Smith did get some play time in the Missouri game. So if both of these guys show up, if both of these guys are out there and get significant playing time in this game against Auburn, we cover the 30 points.
Yeah.
If they're not significant, if they're not getting snaps, if they're just playing here and there, AD Mitchell's got to be out there almost every play. He's got to be the threat deep that forces the secondary to respect it. And right now we're not making them respect the deep ball. So,
well, Blaylock, I really think Blaylock can be the key.
Yeah, I mean, he can. He just needs somebody else out there with him.
Yeah, and I think when McConkey, we've got to send him some glue gloves, and he'll be
That's
fine.
the problem with McConkey. I don't think Missouri was scared of McConkey at all.
No, they weren't.
Because
Well, he didn't have anybody out there with him, really. So,
yeah, I mean, we.
I think we can line up Darnell Washington or Brock Bowers in a wide receiver position, and you can put Blake, you can put Dominic on the other side. You can put Lab McConkey on the other side, and that will do it. That will back them off because you got two guys that are 6'7", and you got Lab McConkey, which you know is fast and you know he can catch. I think that's how Georgia can back him up, but we'll see what happens.
We just got to get the running game going and score when we're in the red zone.
You got to stop having an offensive line run 10 yards backwards. That's what we got to start with that. So.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, that's pretty much it. That's all I got for me tonight. You got anything you want to add?
I don't think go Braves.
Go Braves. Yeah, I figured you were just gonna say that.
Hey, go Braves and Mets. Love you.
For now. So, do want to point out the Yankees have been in first place like 175 days or something this season, and the Braves have been in first place for ready for this 8.
Yeah. Come in right at the end, snatch the snatch the tablecloth right under.
So,
yeah, that was awesome. Awesome.
I really appreciate you coming on the show, Keith. I'm sure we'll be texting back and forth during the game. I'll be in Atlanta tomorrow. I need to get with you and drop off that thing for Stephanie. So
yeah, hit me up. I'll be in Atlanta as well.
All right, man. Well, sounds good, guys. Really appreciate y'all. Who is the home run king? The home run king, in my opinion, will always be Hank Aaron. Sorry, I don't care. I don't care if Judge hits 1 million. My guy will always be Hank Aaron.
And I'll say something real quick about this because that is an interesting question. It's Bonds. I know it was the steroid era. All these guys played in the steroid era, but baseball, you always have to define all the statistics. They're all in eras. Aaron Judge right now is playing in a time where the ball is juiced. These guys have been playing from little league up. They've had coaches that have been able to leverage YouTube and not have to pay all this money to go to baseball clinics. They've been able to be coached by little league coaches that can look at YouTube and get major league drills. Barry Bonds didn't have that.
Yeah, technology.
Roger Maris, if you want to go back to Roger Maris, he didn't have pitchers throwing, 99, every pitcher throwing, between 95 and 100 miles an hour with an 8-inch breaking ball. So, I mean, the era of baseball is different all the time, but baseball always wants to define its records historically. And so you kind of just have to let it go. I mean, Barry Bonds in the era that he played in, he hit 73. And so that's the record.
Yeah. Well, there's something I want to point out. Is that there's more than one kind of baseball. If you want to dig into the homework of it, there was something that was called the dead ball. And then there's something that's called the live or the live era baseball, the live ball era, excuse me. The baseballs are actually made different. The cork is different. The weight of the center is different. The baseball is different.
Yeah.
The stitching is different. The tan horse hide is different. Weighs more, weighs less. There's been rubber used in some of them, but not in all of them. And so that's why I say personally, I think Hank Aaron is the best because he was hitting the most home runs I've ever seen anybody hit. If you go back, the story's incredible. Look how many home runs this guy hit. He was hitting a baseball that was not made the same way baseballs are now, and he was hitting pitches that weren't as fast as we are now. Anybody will tell you, if you want to stop somebody from hitting a home run, throw him a slower pitch because it is harder to hit it out of the park.
The most impressive thing about Hank Aaron, and he's my dude, that you got to have a long, healthy career to hit 755 home runs. I mean, you look at some of the most prolific home run hitters today, they're drilling. I mean, all these guys that we're talking about that had all these home run records in the single season, they're nowhere near hitting 755 across their entire career. I mean, nowhere close, so it's longevity and healthy to be able to do that. I am not 100% sure that we're going to see that record ever broken just because teams give players more time off these days. You got guys being platooned a lot more in today's game. So I don't know if it's going to be really hard. There's nobody. I'll put it this way: there's nobody that's playing today that is on a trajectory to break that record.
Yeah, I mean, Hank Aaron's one of my heroes. He always will be. He's an absolutely incredible athlete. And when you look at Hank Aaron, go back and look at pictures of him. He's not this big swole dude. He's not some big monster. He looks like an everyday guy who just walked in off the street. And Hank Aaron to this day holds the home run record of 755. He also holds the MLB records of most career runs batted in at 2,297, most extra base hits at 1,477 and total bases of 6,856.
Yeah, he's a boss.
God. What do you mean? What do you mean? Who do I think is the home run guy? There can't be anybody.
But you look at the single season home run record. It's unfortunately it's Barry Bonds, and I'm not the biggest Barry Bonds fan. But like I said, Aaron Judge is also hitting balls that are juiced. And I mean, you look at baseball. You look at lineups right now. Like you look at the Braves lineup. Almost everybody in the lineup hit 20 home runs. So I mean, you didn't have that back in the day when the ball wasn't juiced. So it's a lot easier in today's game to
it's more exciting. That's
to
why.
Hit a home run, and that's exactly baseball is trying to make it more offensive because that's what they think people want to watch. So Aaron Judge benefited from a juiced ball. Barry Bonds benefited from a juiced bloodstream. So
your analysis.
And Roger Maris and all those younger guys benefited from pitchers only throwing two different pitches, fastball and a changeup, and a curveball that maybe broke a few. They didn't have these guys with the super high spin rate. I mean, you did have some of them. Don't get me wrong. You did have some guys, but not as many as you have today. Not as you have today, man. Some of these pitchers out there today are just doing wacky stuff, man. I mean, you almost can't pitch in the major leagues unless you got a 95 mile an hour or higher fastball.
Yep.
And you think back in the day, just in the 90s, you were elite if you just throw the ball that fast.
Yeah. Well, back, think about this. Nolan Ryan is still, the record holder for the fastest fastball. But there's many baseball players now that can throw over 100.
Yeah.
Anyway, got to jump off, man. I really appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. We'll be talking to you guys soon. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a great day. God bless. Go Dogs.